better as a result of social media presence.
If it doesn't do those three things, then it's on the chopping block.
It's a return on investment discussion.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Daily Dealer Live. You're in the best place to catch up on all of Automotive's best content, information, and news this Monday, September 29th. And we're going to actually break tradition here and dive straight into the news, the most important stuff that we're talking about today. Before we get to our guests, first up today, CDGBuySell.com brings us an acquisition with the Schottenkirk Automotive Group. They've acquired Subaru of Jacksonville from the Porter family, giving the Texas and Iowa-based group its first Florida dealership and first Subaru franchise. The Jacksonville store has been a family-owned operation for 25 years under Phil Porter Sr., earning top industry honors for customer satisfaction and loyalty. And with this deal, Schottenkirk expands its footprint to 29 dealerships across 7 states. But the bigger picture, regional dealership groups continue to push into new markets and brands, targeting proven high-performing stores despite ongoing industry headwinds. And don't forget, you can see this deal announcement and many more throughout the entire year on the CDG Buy-Sell tracker, CDGBuySell.com. I love that. We've got our own jingle. Makes me so happy. Next up, we don't have a techoutage.com announcement just yet, but JLR is getting used to it as they are announcing this week they're getting relief from the cyber attack that shut down its plants, with the UK government underwriting a $1.5 billion loan to guarantee support the automaker's suppliers. The money will stabilize cash flow, allow JLR to make overdue payments, and protect jobs in the West Midlands, Merseyside, and beyond, which I assume that's English, Merseyside. Areas hit hard since production was halted on August 31st. UK Business Secretary Peter Kyle called the attack, quote, an assault on an iconic British brand. But to borrow a line from Monty Python, it's not dead yet. Adding the loan will help safeguard skilled jobs and keep the supply chain intact. But it might not be enough. JLR is also raising another $2 billion from global banks, reports Bloomberg. Bottom line here, well, the loan buys JLR crucial breathing room as it restarts IT systems and works hard toward resuming production. But it's also a stark reminder of how exposed the global auto industry is to digital disruption. And it absolutely is. Again, we saw that last year. Thank goodness we're well past all of that craziness. Finally, up today, a new overfuel study shows nearly every major auto group is flunking Google's core web vitals. I object, by the way, and I'll tell you in a minute why. In fact, 95.5% of dealership websites failed on both mobile and desktop. Out of more than 1,900 sites reviewed, only 7 passed Google's standards, and one dealer group owned more than half of those. Why does this matter? And I bet they're a client of Overfuel. I don't know. Call me cynical. Well, dealers that do pass typically see up to a 20% lift in organic traffic, meaning better visibility without spending more on ads. The signal for car buyers, the website is the new showroom. And if it's broken or slow, they might assume the dealership experience will be too. We looked into this article and we wanted to find out, all right, what are those key metrics? And we're still researching it. So if you're with Overfuel and you want to share that, please share away. Let us know what we're all flunking. But don't release a survey unless you're ready to defend what those items are, because otherwise, I don't want to hear it. And that's a wrap on this Monday, September 29th. Am I wrong? By the way, co-hosting today, Yuli DiMartino. Welcome, Yuli. Am I wrong?
No, not wrong at all. I'm happy to be here. I think it's a very sassy news day today, and you're spot on. We got to hear what those metrics are that everyone's failing on.
And not just to you, but to our entire audience, a reminder, we're live streaming across all CDG social media platforms. Post to the comments, not only where are you watching today or where are you listening if you're on the live show. We've had people everywhere across these United States and globe checking in, but also you can put your comments in the link. Yoga Car says, look up Amazon, 1 second slowdown cost. And Supervisor Dan says, let's go. Thanks for joining us on that. We've got a huge show coming up today. Yuli, buckle up because we're about to get a masterclass in buy sell activities. We've got on the show a CFO that has become a master at buying auto dealerships. CFO at Gregg Young Automotive Group, Alex Morton, will come up and teach us a little bit about what it takes to buy a dealership, what he looks at, and what metrics are key and most important. Also, we've got Troy Blackwell, EVP of Spiffy, on the show to talk a little bit about remote deliveries. And we've got Krystal Roberts, Executive Manager, Advantage Chevrolet of Hodgkins, also joining the show. So we're super excited to get to today's content. But before we go there, just a reminder. We said it last time, and Dennis, you're in. Car Dealership Guy is back with our second annual NADA party. It's happening in Las Vegas on Thursday, February 5th. It's the hottest ticket at NADA 2026 with special guests and top personalities. To be considered for a formal invite, just hit the link in the show notes below. Request to join and fill out that questionnaire. Again, we're not going to deny Gingrich a seat at the table or Tully. We want to see both of them there at the party, and we'll see many more of you as well. Lauren Klein checks in, says, still in Mexico, but listening loyally. Hannah Farmer watching from Nashville, Tennessee, and Ben Shive, sunny west coast of Florida, which, by the way, is exactly where I wish I were today. Florida, a little bit of sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
Yuli, let's dive into today's show. First up today, let's turn to CFO Gregg Young Automotive Group, Alex Morton. Alex, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Big fan of the show.
Alex.
All right, Alex, I hope I didn't oversell you, but before we get into this about all things buy sell, how's biz? And as part of that, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at the Gregg Young Automotive Group.
Sure. Yeah. Biz is good. 2025 has presented some new challenges, obviously with tariffs and everything else going on. But here at the Gregg Young Automotive Group, we're celebrating 25 years in business last month. So we've been kind of celebrating the last couple of months.
Congrats.
Yeah. In my role, I've been CFO here with Gregg Young Group for just coming up on 10 years. When I joined, we had 2 stores, and
wow,
now we've grown up to 12 rooftops in 3 different states. So a large majority of my time has been spent on the buy-sell front and working through the acquisitions.
Very
You
nice.
quoted the number of buy sells you've done even just in the last 9 months or 12 months. What have you done recently, period time wise?
Yeah. It started late 2022, but we added 7 different stores from 2022 to kind of early 24. So it's been a little quieter 25 as far as actually closing. Looked at a number of deals, but we were really, really busy for that 18-month period.
Actually, that's an interesting trend. So you've looked at some, but not bit. Are you seeing unreasonable multipliers? Like, what's caused you to pull back just a little bit in these past several months?
I don't know if it's truly pulling back. It's probably more of a finding the right deal. As many as you look at, as many as you pull the trigger on, you probably look at 10 times that, right? You got to find the right one, and we just haven't quite put our finger on the right one this year, but they're certainly still out there.
Yeah. So you have a lot of different brands. I was looking you up. I don't have it here in the list, but Chevy, list the brands that you have, the OEMs that you represent.
Yeah. Primarily all domestic. We got eight Chevy stores, some Stellantis, Cadillac, Ford, and then 2 Toyota points as well. So a little bit of the import.
So as you think about, hey, I want to find that best acquisition opportunity, are you looking, first of all, are you looking at an OEM? Are you looking at a geography? Are you looking at a type of an acquisition? When you first go to approach, what are the metrics that you're looking for?
Boy, you just hit it on the head, right? There's kind of, it's threefold. You're looking at location. Is it in your backyard? Is it not? What size of market are you looking at? Obviously, the OEM plays into it. The second, you see an import or a Toyota, Lexus point come across your desk, it really perks your interest. And then performance, asking price, or is it a fixer upper, or is it a strong producing store? You're looking at all 3 of those key points.
Are you having most success in the broker world, word of mouth? Do you prefer finding it before a broker gets to it?
Yeah, both. We're lucky. We've got some great relationships with the brokers. Our friends at Performance and Haig and Kerrigan, kind of all what, you want to keep that relationship going, whether it's NADA or, a dealer meeting or just keeping them on the phone. We have great relationships there where they're kind of calling us early on. You'd love to get one in your backyard prior to the brokers getting their hands on it. Obviously, you can kind of work that deal a little bit smoother and however it works. We've been lucky to have both, some just based on local relationships and some from the brokers.
Well, manifest it, man. You're on the live show of Automotive right now. You got the ear of everyone. Your ideal deal right now, what would it be? Maybe we got someone watching the show that's going to reach out to you.
Yeah. Boy, put my selling shoes on a little bit here. These are the accountants in the room aren't supposed to be the guys that sell, right? Our biggest ones are probably, the one I like the best is probably going to be bigger markets. If you can get your hands on a little bit bigger. The ones we've bought the last 3 or 4 years have been a little smaller, maybe underperforming with some bigger upside. We're kind of shifting our focus more to larger markets. Brand wise, we love the Toyota Lexus, but we know GM really, really well. We believe in their product. So I like looking at those as well. And then it comes down to who's running it. And when you step in and take over, what does that personnel look like? Do you have the right guy? And it's really you're coming in and just trying to help improve performance, or is it a true takeover? A guy retiring, stepping into his next phase of life, and now you got to kind of bring a guy. So we're always looking for the next person, and we believe that the folks running the store should be partners in some respect. So as much as we're looking for the store, you're looking for the GM to look for a buy-in opportunity, have some sort of equity and come join our group. So it's people and an opportunity.
So what does the partnership side look like when you're out looking for acquisitions? Are you giving partial ownership? Is it, or is it good pay plan? What's your strategy on that way?
We're flexible on it. There's models out there where it's a buy-in, buy-out program. We don't have a true formalized one. It kind of depends on the deal and the guy running it. If they want to come in and work for a few years and kind of sweat equity their way into it, we can build something around there. If they want to, put some money up front and buy in right away, we can certainly have that conversation. So Gregg is open to all of it.
So Alex, is there an OEM that you look at and you say, never, we would never buy that because of our past history, relationship, or performance of the brand? Is there anything that's on your do not buy list?
I would not say any of them are truly on do not buy. We've tried the Mitsubishi route, didn't go as well, and so we onboarded and offboarded that one. But it's funny how cyclical it is, right? Like you see some franchises that are maybe struggling and they're popping up more for sale right now, but you got to imagine that they're going to kind of get their feet under them and go. So timing is more so than anything. The Stellantis and the CDJ and the Nissans are popping up right now, but there's a lot of folks that think maybe they're going to turn the corner and be worth something. So maybe it's worth buying now.
So I love what you're talking about, where you're saying, hey, I want to give a GM ownership, or I want to give them buy-in somehow, whether it's a great pay plan or whether it's some sort of equity or whatever. What's your strategy when you go in and you buy a store? What's your strategy to keep that team in place and to have them grow? Because you can't sell it all on your own, right? You've got to have great employees to continue that operation. And part of that multiplier that you're paying is tied up in those employees and how well they execute. And, you bring the strength that you bring, but you want to bring your strength and add to what they're already doing, not take them backwards, right? So how do you keep people?
That's so well said. When you go through these buy sells, regardless of size of market, it's a change for everybody. It's a name change. You got to answer the phone differently. A lot of software changes, DMS and CRM. And so it's tough on the people. So, we like to come in and tell folks, like the time you spent with the previous employer, we're going to honor that. So if you worked 20 years from the previous dealer, you have 20 years of tenure with us. And so you've already earned the top level of the vacation earnout or whatever that looks like. Right. And we're going to celebrate your 25-year anniversary, even though if it's a couple years in with us. And so you got to sell them on that. And then obviously the number one question is usually pay. So you usually see opportunity on pay plans as you look at a deal, but that's kind of the last piece. You want to come in, give them an opportunity to show them maybe our processes improve and their paychecks get better, even with some small pay plan changes. So pay, vacation, and then just got to build the culture from day one. You only got one opportunity to change that name. So come in with resources and culture, but you need all those people, because we don't have, if you buy a store with 50 employees, we don't have 50 people ready to come in. Maybe one come in and be the leader, but yeah, you need them all, and you just got to show them the way to be successful.
Yeah. So you mentioned different brands that you've purchased, Toyota at one, GM another. Everybody kind of banties about this idea about multipliers, right? And as CFO, you get a package, you look at it, you value it, you decide what your number is. How do you arrive at that number, and how do you think about multipliers as you get them from these different brokers, Hague and others? How do you get to that number? Take us through the math.
The multiplier is an interesting conversation, because the multipliers are pretty consistent. The brand, the Kerrigans, the Hagues, they produce those numbers, and they'll tell you it's 4, 5, 7, 9 times. But the question is, 9 times what, or 4 times what, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where we probably spend most of our time. Is it current earnings? Is it a 3-year average? Is it, what we can get? How can you get it to the point where it's 4 times? So that's the art of the deal. You got to spend some time looking at individual metrics, performance of the stores, where there's opportunity, and kind of get a feeling for what the dealer's trying to get out of it for selling. So there's some deals it's a no-brainer, and then there's some you're like, can we move the needle in these 3 areas to get to the point where it is a 5 times multiple? And that's where you have the winners and the losers, is changing those.
I want to ask about time bombs that you can find in a financial statement. Before I do that, what are the biggest strengths you have as an auto group, where you look at a financial and you're like, hey, we can improve this. We can do better in F&I. We can do better in used cars. What are the biggest levers you feel like you're culturally best able to move in a positive direction, Alex?
Yeah, our group, we believe we're really strong in fixed, and we're really strong in F&I. And so there's some opportunity. Fixed, F&I, used cars is kind of where your main focus is. But, quickly on a financial statement, you can identify some opportunity in fixed, if it's technician cost, or it's, door rate, or any of those certain items. And then F&I, we're strong in there. We're a believer that it comes through training and how we start the deal at the desk. So, quickly, when you glance at a quick store, you can identify maybe, a couple of opportunities to move that 10, 20, 30% to justify an asking price of a deal.
Now, so F&I get, and I hear that quite a bit. I believe that with great training, great people, great execution, you can see that increase. Is there a company you do business with, you give props to on the show, that helps you deliver that result?
Yeah, we're firm believers with the firm partners with the Ethos Group. All the way from training F&I to housing, some of our compliance type stuff. They've been a big supporter of ours. They have great staff to come in and train our folks, help recruit.
Dave Tarek and the company out there, it's a good operation. Fixed ops, you don't hear as much, Alex. What's a lever you pull? You mentioned a few, but when you go into some of these new acquisitions, what's an area of big opportunity in fixed ops, and do you have a partner you work with there?
Fixed ops, less about the true partner and the training. Ethos is developed the last couple of years a great service advisor training module. So the training and upselling on the drive is a huge opportunity. But little things too. You can play with that door rate. Some folks don't have true markup on their internal cars. How fast they're getting them through the shop. There's so many little, I love fixed ops because you can make small changes in it. There's so many customers coming into the drive, big impact, right? It's not like just selling another car. That's where all your customers are, right?
Yeah. Speed to execution is everything in automotive, and those groups that understand speed to execution win, and those that don't lose money, right? Especially in an interest heavy environment like we're in right now. And time to front line on used cars and even customer cars is huge. So when you look at a financial statement, you're assessing it for a buy sell, for an acquisition. Are there any time bombs you see in a financial where you're like, look, I see what they're claiming to be their net, but if I look beyond the financial statement, do a little digging, I can find some problems. What are some of the most common problems you see?
It may be less on the financial statement. Some of the questions you can ask, because there's your ad backs, and there's, what are they charging themselves for rent? So if you just look at the true bottom number,
Yeah.
they can kind of hide some things. So you're really looking above the line, right? At true operating expenses. But some of the questions you start asking are, do you have a policy on aging your used? Because you might have really strong used car gross, but you've got a problem on the inventory, right? And that's not hitting the P&L until it is recognized as a problem. So you just got to ask those questions. What software they're using? What are their processes? People and pay plans? Just asking the operational questions will light up that financial statement.
Yeah. How often do you find a problem in used cars if there is no aging policy? And where do you resolve that? Do you resolve that in the negotiation piece or at closing by saying, hey, your inventory is not what you think it is, and here's proof?
That's a common question at closing, right? Everybody thinks their car is worth more than what somebody's going to pay. And it's a unique spot because it's not like they are in a position where they want to take every car to the auction and maybe get a little bit more than we're willing to pay. So it can be a sticking point at closing. We want to be reasonable with them. We understand that they've given us an opportunity to take on their folks. And the last thing we want our sales team to do is not have any used cars to sell. So it's a give and take a little bit at closing. But when we go in a couple days before closing and we put a number on absolutely every car, and luckily guys a lot smarter than me are putting that number on it, and a car is worth what a car is worth. Some guys are probably in a little bit worse spot, but every store is a little different.
Yeah. Is there, I think the partnerships you have in a dealership can either make that acquisition easy or tough, right? And so you think about your DMS, your CRM, and all the different tools you have. Are there any partners that stand out to you as really being helpful in that acquisition transition? Because that can be a tough part too. How quickly do you get your website up and running? How quickly do you get your used cars and new cars syndicated? How quickly are you able to turn on and start marketing? Any advice for dealers out there as it comes to your tech stack in acquisitions?
Yeah, I think you just got to be prepared and kind of over communicating. It's not one person. You got to really work together to make sure everything's ready to go on day one. There's probably a strategy on some to just change the name and leave the tech stack in place so you don't have kind of go dark. We're more of the let's get it, let's rip the Band-Aid off and get it, into ours. So, we're at Automotive DMS, and they've been great to work with as far as going live day of. Yeah. So
yeah,
their
props
team.
to Solera. Yeah. Okay.
So they've been a great team where you kind of go live and they turn on and they've sent folks to be ready on site. And then kind of everything else, you just turn it on as fast as you can. There's a week there where you're on the phone a lot, and every department's trying to get something lit up as quickly as you possible. But usually the vendors are much better than sometimes the OEM, right? They got to turn off they got to push all their fancy buttons behind the curtain, and that takes 3 or 4 or 5 days sometimes. And the vendors are ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the buy sell marketplace currently, where are you seeing the biggest competition? Who's competing against you the most? Is it Publix? Is it, family dealerships? Is it single points looking to grow?
Single points are looking to sell. I think that's where we're finding the folks that are maybe not wanting to play the game as much. The stores that we have maybe said no to that have actually sold, you're seeing groups like ours, that are trying to grow. It's the private groups that are trying to go from 10 to 20 or 25 to 50 rooftops. The Publics have dabbled. We probably aren't quite looking at the deals that they are. But it's a little bit of everything. Not a lot of single point guys buying the stores that we've been looking at.
Okay. Online, RM Wooden says, don't forget most manufacturers will reset the store's warranty parts markup back to cost plus 40% after a buy sell. Not sure that's true. Is that true in your experience? What do you see?
Yeah, some will. Yeah. Kind of depending on state and depending on location as well. So you kind of you have that and you got a short period where you can kind of immediately ask for an increase after that. Mm-hmm. So waiting isn't in your favor. Like get your customer pay, rates locked in and ready to go. And that way, after 90 days and you got a number of repair orders in place, you can ask for that increase back to where it needs to be.
Scott Simon says, listening from Greece. That's cool.
Wow.
And then Dan C says, be sure to get earnings from a CPA review audit statement, not a manufacturer factory statement. Tell everybody why that's right, if it's right.
Yeah, that's certainly helpful. Obviously, the CPA, if the store that's selling does have a review or an audit performed, I mean, they're going to back into a few of the things and require you to present it correctly. Because there's some goofy things with packs and other things on the inventory side of things that you can do on a factory statement that might not show the full picture. So you got to peel back the onion a little bit there.
Yeah.
And then how do you deal with, for the new store, how do you deal with the Blue Sky? So Blue Sky, for everybody not knowing, that's the cost to acquire the point. Do you charge it back to the store as a monthly cost? How do you deal with that as a group? How do you fund that, finance it?
Yeah, a lot of banks will loan you at the store level to let you borrow some of it, not a lot. OEM's different, price is different. They're going to look at that as loaning a little bit. So we'll charge that to the store. The debt to acquire the store usually likes to hit the statement. So, years 1 through 5 are traditionally, maybe you're building into that pro forma a ramp up of trying to pay down some debt. So it's one of the obstacles you got to tackle while you're early on after an acquisition.
So Alex, last questions we get to wrap here. What's the thing as a CFO that keeps you up at night when you're in acquisition mode and you're trying to grow the group? What keeps you up at night?
Boy, besides my young kids,
yeah.
The CFO front, it's really just cash flow. This business, it's crazy to think that the more you sell, the tougher cash gets, right? And so just making sure you have processes in place across our group, making sure
fund those deals.
It's dealership 101, but that can slow everything down. And especially when you're, an acquisition's coming and you're going to maybe, use some of that excess cash, just making sure cash is flowing. So we're lucky we've got a great team that they spend most of their time on that.
Well, Alex Morton, CFO, Gregg, Young Automotive Group, an absolute pleasure having you on the show today to talk about your strategy and acquisition. We wish you the best of luck as you continue to acquire stores and grow the auto group. And we'd love to have you back on sometime when you acquire your next few stores and talk about how that goes. Very cool to get the transparent behind the scenes look at it. So thanks for being on the show, Alex.
You bet. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Alex.
That's fun. Interesting, isn't it?
For sure.
I don't hear a lot of people say, hey, we can do better in fixed, because fixed is fixed, right? It's pretty flat, pretty even, but he had some very interesting strategies as it relates to increasing that. So fun.
Yeah. It's kind of shocking how low the bar is set in some of those deals. Like he's talking about how much money's left on the table. So,
yeah. Well, hey, let's talk Lotlinx. With Lotlinx, dealers win with every VIN. The AI-powered platform uses the most robust VIN and shopper data to help optimize every vehicle and protect profit. Take control of your inventory today at Lotlinx.com. You can scan that QR code to the right. You can also go into the show notes, click on the link to learn more. But we appreciate Lotlinx for supporting the content on today's show, including this little bit of a buy-sell behind-the-scenes look that we just got. So props to Lotlinx. Thank you. All right, let's go to Troy Blackwell. Let's talk remote service. Executive VP, Automotive Business Development, Spiffy. Troy, welcome.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Been watching the show for a long time, so great to be here.
It's fun to have you on the show. You and I met out at Reynolds in Dallas at a very cool contest where Reynolds brought a bunch of people together and they wanted to get the best practice out there. And it was fun getting a chance to meet you and learn a little bit more about your business and what you're doing. How is biz? And as part of that, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Business has been great. It's great timing, just on the heels of your previous conversation around fixed. So Spiffy, we've been doing mobile service for about 11 years. And we've done over 3.5 million services. So really think of us as a mobile technology platform for automotive industry. And we're taking this knowledge and we're transferring it into the dealerships and saying, we built in-house software, we build vans internally. So we've learned a lot and kind of learned from some of our early mistakes. And what can we do to help accelerate you guys, dealerships, into the mobile business?
So, and it's an interesting point. When you talk about seeing an increase in fixed ops for an acquiring dealer, like we just heard about, remote service is definitely one area. So you build what? Let's start with that. What are some of the biggest lessons you learned early on that you've corrected that maybe other dealers could learn from as it relates to remote service this September 2025?
Well, Sam, you'd be surprised when we do go and talk to dealerships what they're doing to try to make mobile work. And when I say that, even using Excel spreadsheets to manage routes, those were things we did very early on, and we've since improved with this software. So that's one right away, because they schedule like the cable company. Remember when they said it will be there between
noon and 10? Yeah,
and
then they don't show up.
And then they always show up at that last hour. I want to be the guy where they get there at the first part, right? So that's where we really focused on to really optimize the scheduling and the routes from an efficiency standpoint. We've got some great partners like Bozard Ford, which I know Ed Roberts has been on the show many times. And even in their environment, they're one of the leaders of mobile. When we got there, they were at 20 mobile vans, and today they're around 46. So they certainly have grown. And by implementing the software, certainly tightened up to get as many as 4 to 5 ROs a day in that mobile space. So we're excited. Those are some early learnings that we've had.
All right, Troy, I'll bite on the cable scheduling, because nothing drives me more nuts than a company that says, I'll be there between 10 and 3, and they don't even show up for the 10 and 3. And you see that a lot, cable, HVAC, like any of those home service companies. How have you been able to go from that spreadsheet to being able to predict when that technician is able to arrive at a home? How does the software work that it's able to predict more accurately? And how tight is the window you give consumers when you show up at their house?
Okay, I know my engineers are probably listening, so they're going to be the best ones to kind of really walk through the nuts and bolts.
Fair.
From my side, it's really building in and understanding traffic patterns at the very beginning. So you know that van needs to leave from one point to another, right? So we have things built within, so we know traffic patterns and how long it's going to take to get to the job. And then we have op codes, and we understand how long it's going to take to do a particular job. Now we build in buffers, and we work with our dealer partners to add those buffers in. So think of it too, if they actually go to a fleet environment, you may get to do a fleet and someone has the keys and they're locking 3 cars ahead of you. So those are little nuances that happen, but our technology puts things in place. Now, when you're managing one van, it's actually easier to manage when you have multiple, because then you can pull vans and resources and apply them into the jobs. But that's from the simplest way to kind of relate it to your audience of what our technology can do.
So you've had some to do with Ford dealers. Ford grew from 20,000 to 360,000 mobile pickup experiences in just 2.5 years. What are a couple of the takeaways from that growth and that experience that have moved the needle in remote?
I think Ford, as we all know, Ford is probably the most aggressive with mobile service. They were the early ones out of the gate. Put a lot of programs in place for the dealerships to have a van and even a Ford Escape to go out and do things like recalls. But I think the learnings from that, 2.5, 3 years ago, they were looking at 20,000 customer experiences a month. And that was half mobile and then half pickup and delivery. Fast forward to today, 360,000. So, and that's collectively, right? But what that tells you is there's certainly a customer appetite, right? There's a customer saying, hey, as much as you want us to probably come to the dealership from a convenience side, we'd love for you to come to us or come to our home. And then not to mention there's a recall aspect baked in here as well. And whether you're going to your customers or other dealerships to fulfill those recalls, that's also something that we've seen.
What are you seeing on the CSI side when you talk about consumer appetite from that 20,000 to 360 in Ford's case? Like, what's the impact to CSI with remote service?
Yeah, that's one of the first things I talk about when I sit down with a dealer or principal or GM is the lift in CSI. And it's about 12-point pickup in CSI. So any of those bad ones that you may get on the service drive are going to be offset out in the field. There's great partners out there. I think of Jim Sabino out at All American Ford, who posts his Google reviews daily. And so it's pretty fascinating to see the customers' feedback and their desire of looking for mobile service.
So if you're a dealer watching the show today and you're like, all right, I get it. Remote service makes sense, but you've just never done it. I think a lot of dealers have been pulled into it through Ford because their program made so much sense financially. Like you almost had to do it. You were giving up free money to not get into it.
Yeah.
But let's say there's a dealer out there, single point, or maybe a few stores, they just haven't done anything with it. What are a few first steps a dealer could take to get into this business and help understand and realize the benefit or the impact of remote service?
Well, we like to sit down with them and understand what stage are they at. Are they at the stage of, I'm not sure, mobile scares me, I don't want to put a capital behind this?
Let's pretend it's the first stage. They have done nothing because look, I think there's dealers out there that don't want technicians driving vans around doing whatever, right? Like, how do you know where this driver is? How do you know what they're doing? I think that's overblown. I don't believe that argument at all, but there are some dealers that have not done step one. What would you say to them, Troy?
So I think the first thing you do is, like, dealers operate in 30-day cycles. So let's look at a pro forma and let's sit down and pencil it with your numbers and see what it's going to take for this van to be profitable. Obviously, it's important that the principal and the GM, the service manager are behind this. So my first step is leadership absolutely has to get behind this, and you have to treat it like a different department. You have variable, you have the business office, you have F&I, you have fixed, and then mobile kind of sits over here, right? So you have to, one, create it like its own department. Let's create its own P&L. It's a relatively small community still, and kudos and compliments to Ed Roberts and his team are starting to create like 20 groups where GMs can come in and educate, and that's I spend a lot less time selling, and it's getting on these platforms like your show and educate and consult and share 11 years of best practices and show them where to find technicians. And, it reminds me of a story down in Florida where there's a lot of swimming pools. They went after and hired swimming pool technicians that have a skill set, can clean a pool, but also are great with customers. So that's an area that some dealers may never have thought of. And if we can share those of how to find the right tech with the right skill and bring them in, that's what I think dealers know why they should do mobile. They just don't know how. And if we can show them the how and sit down and say, here's how mobile can work.
Yeah. Well, so let's say you want to start, you've got the van, you've got a technician. What are some of those starting services as you go out for those first interactions you should deliver as part of that remote service?
Some of my dealers, they'll look at the easy ones first. And when I say easy, they'll look at, should we go out and do a recall? Can we go tackle some of that recall work? Can we go start in fleet? And then I've got some customers that say, you know what, we're really going to jump all in on the customer side. I've got some customers that are trying to educate their consumer about mobile, so they'll even sell it in F&I, right? Early, like, hey, we have a mobile program, and let's take you through when we get into F&I and bundle it up into a package. Oh, really? You'll come to my house? And we call it driveway envy, right? You show up to their house, and now you're doing a mobile service. Well, guess what? That neighbor next door will all of a sudden say, hey, where'd you buy your car? These guys come to you? So
Troy, are you saying that you're seeing some dealerships and groups selling remote service as a package, like prepaid How does that work? Walk me through that.
Yeah, so I've got a couple early dealerships that are saying, "Hey, I treated this like one. I need to help get the message out." And one of the messages being is if it's a prepaid maintenance, maybe it's prepaid maintenance plus mobile, and maybe we have a silver, gold, and platinum package. And so some of them have offered it in that way. Some of them haven't even taken an approach of I'm going to mark it up. But some will look back at fixed and say, I'm 5 weeks out on an appointment. I need to free up those bays for the bigger jobs. Let me go take these small jobs and go do it mobily. And that's where some of my customers live today.
Yeah, I get nervous when you talk about that because I don't want F&I to overpromise what you can do in remote service, right?
Yeah.
Is that a risk? Is that potentially something that could?
Well, with our software, we build everything off of opcode, so there's jobs that a customer can't do mobile.
Okay.
When we did get with some customers, they actually did not want to add headcount to a BDC, so they wanted a customer to kind of self-navigate. So think about everything we do outside of automotive is on this, right? I mean, you don't talk to anybody. You just get on there and order and things show up and tell my kids talk to me. But with that all being said, that's where I see the customer's appetite of like from a convenience standpoint. Now, there'll be jobs that we'll have to redirect the customer back to the dealership. We have a electronic MPI into our technology too. So when we do go out and do a walk around, we're looking at things within the car. And let's say they are below 430 seconds on tires. Well, let's reroute them back to the dealership and schedule an appointment. So that's another easy add one. And then the other piece of this too is also think of variable. If we are actively trying to find cars to acquire, not only is it the car that you're working on, but they more than likely have a second car in the driveway.
Ooh, that's good.
So, let's tap into an acquisition play too.
How do you do that? What does that look like?
There's different tools you can use. I need, Brian Kramer with AccuTrade and a couple others that are out there. You can tie that in. Some of already are using it. Now just put it in the technician's hand. A little bit of training from a technician, but the technology has come so far along that it's very easy. And if they're already doing an MPI, you're not adding a lot of time to that process. But if that's your strategy and you want to build that in to acquire cars, then it's a good strategy to have.
A lot of different ways you could potentially go. As we wrap today, what are a few problems or attempts that dealers will make that causes their remote service to fail? Like, what are some pitfalls dealers should look to avoid this September of 2025?
Yeah, great question. I think not separating it, not putting leadership in charge, not hiring someone and dedicating that person. Because here's what's going to happen. You strap a fixed ops director or a service manager, they have a full-time schedule and agenda. And it's something new they can't dedicate. They'll do, well, we got one appointment on this today or two. You know what? So-and-so called in sick. Let's pull this guy off the van and so all those little nuances happen. So I think what needs to take place is a strategy. We've got to sit down and lay out a blueprint. What is your commitment? What's your strategy to really drive mobile? And we've got some huge success stories from even a Stellantis location in Little San Marcos, Texas, where they went after mobile and did 95 ROs the first month and did 23,000 a rev on the van and 16 gross. And, those are real numbers, not from me. It's real numbers from a dealership that launched mobile, and share those with other customers.
A ton of opportunity as it sits in fixed ops and mobile delivery. And it's interesting too, maybe we've only got a couple seconds left, but that customer experience, right? It seems to me if you're doing that, like I love the idea of used car acquisition. I love the idea of recalls and basic services and even selling it in F&I if you can figure out how to do that right. Like focusing on that customer experience at their home, that gives us a whole new world, right?
Quite literally meeting them where they're at.
Yeah, and that's said a lot, right? That slogan is said quite often, and I will just tell you that customers are less guarded at home and more open. They're on their home turf. They're, in the comfort of their house or their work, and a technician comes and says, hey, you've got a dirty cabin filter, or you got bad wipers. Those are easy add-ons that may have been declined at the dealership, but now that they're at home, we're finding those additional add-ons are happening.
Troy Blackwell, EVP, Automotive Business Development. Spiffy, thanks for joining the show today and sharing your perspectives on all things remote delivery. I want to know more about used car acquisitions in remote service. I think that is just a cool angle as well. Troy, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks guys.
It's a fun conversation.
Yeah, it's definitely something I never thought about, arming your technician with the ability to acquire used cars. It's awesome. Awesome.
So we had Alex Lawrence on the show a month or so ago, and he was talking with Yossi and I about, there will be a day where an automated Tesla will just drive itself back to the dealership and get serviced and then drive itself back to the garage. This is the reverse of that. And this allows us to bring dealership to the customer's home. I actually think that's better if you can figure out how to do that in a really elite way. Remote service, remote delivery, remote pickup, all the things coming to the customer where they want to be is very, very cool. All right, let's go to Krystal Roberts, Executive Manager at Advantage Chevrolet Hodgkins. Krystal, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you guys. Thank you for having me today. How's everybody doing?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining the show. We're going to start out with the question we ask everyone. Krystal, how's biz? And as part of that, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do there.
Yeah, every day above water is a fantastic day. That's how I start. So when people come to work with complaints, I say, you woke up today. So today is going to be a fantastic day. But I'll tell you a little bit of background of myself. I've been in the business automotive for 25 years now. And the exciting new news I have is I'm being involved in my first buy-sell. So I will be leaving the location I'm at as executive manager to move next door. And I'm involved in buy-sell for Cadillac Buick GMC store.
Nice.
So really
same group or different group, Krystal?
Same group. So just continue on with the background. Myself and my brother operate 8 of our locations. We're a family-owned and operated business. So my brother and I are second generation. And my father started in the business 40-something years ago, which as his first store was a General Motors store. It was actually a Pontiac GMC store back in 1984, 85, I believe it was. But he's also former NADA chairman, director, not chairman, and industry relations for Chevrolet. So it was tough shoes to fill, but in my background of 25 years, I've worked in a lot of roles in the store. I was a porter, started as a porter while I was going to school, graduate school. I was filling vending machines, nothing too glamorous, but worked in service, worked in parts, worked in the office administration, started Business Development Center in 2006. Worked vehicle exchange, which I'll talk a little bit about that since we were talking about vehicle acquisition. That's a great place to go to get your vehicles trade-ins and also new opportunities for new sales. Worked in office. So I've worked in every role. So the last role here is executive manager. I've been that for 9 years. And I also serve as president for dealer advisory board for Chevrolet's commercial medium duty trucks. So within our Grotto group, we have 3 Chevrolet stores. Toyota, Acura, we're building a Honda store in Open Point. We have medium duty trucks and then Cadillac Buick GMC, which I'll be moving to, which is literally the same parking lot, which is fantastic. So we're going to be making this a whole GM campus.
And where are you located? What city are you in?
This is Chicago. So all of our stores are within 30 miles of downtown Chicago.
Krystal, how have we never met? We're in the same geography. We need to meet somehow.
I was quiet kept for many years.
Come on.
Behind the scenes. So now getting really involved in having a more vocal role. I was more of just behind the scenes with the family business.
So is the Buick GMC Cadillac, is that a secret or is it public now, the acquisition?
Oh, no, that I wouldn't discuss it if it wasn't. I've already signed my APA. I wouldn't have the conversation.
Who did you buy from? Who'd you buy?
Actually, I worked with this from the manufacturer, and it was our neighbor that's been there for 20 years. It is Edelson Buick GMC, and it's now going to be Advantage Buick GMC. My partner talking with the banks are, my experience is working with the manufacturer. So that's how my father got his start. And the reason why he wanted us to partner with Motors Holding, which is a division within GM, is Motors Holding is not just a bank and an umbrella. They actually help you in training you to be a successful dealer. So you have board meetings. You have to, any expenses over a certain dollar amount, you have to clear that with the board. So they really are more hands-on in involvement, and especially with first-time dealers, I highly advise, if you can, to go through that program. And on top of that, a lot of times not too many people have the kind of capital, unless they have, right, their families involved in business, to come up with the 10 or 15% or 20% that's required as a down payment towards an acquisition of these stores. So even though we could have gone a different route, I prefer to go through Motors Holding so I can learn that part of the business with my business partner.
So, Krystal, before I ask you about Motors Holding versus NADA, tell us a little bit about the opportunity that is automotive. What would you say to someone that's like, hey, you know, I'm thinking about you got your start much the same way I did. I was washing cars in high school when I started. And this industry has given me tremendous opportunity throughout the course of my life. Talk to us a little bit about the opportunity that you see as automotive, having started in a very similar position, and now you are today where you are.
This is one of the few industries where it's not your ability to achieve success is not based on where you went to college. And I have an MBA from DePaul University, but 90% of the people in the car business don't have master's degrees, let alone a 4-year undergraduate degree. So this is the first business that I ran into that is based on your work ethic and your drive, as opposed to where you went to school. So we've been able to promote a lot of people within to grow within the organization. It's not just about the bloodline and the direct family. I look at core people in our organization that we can promote from within. We've had a couple of managers that started out as porters, and we put them through NADA Academy, and their ambition to one day be a dealer, and working with them with that program.
All right, I'm going to ask a question because I'm just going to say it. I'm the host, I get to do it, right? So I don't think there's enough women in automotive. Agree, disagree? And how do we get more women into automotive?
I would tell you it was tough for a long time because women would generally be the ones that are the primary caretaker for their children. And the hours that are required and requested of them was a little bit prohibitive for that. And there's been more, I would say there's been more flexibility as time has progressed in this country in order to allow for women to be a part of that. And it's a little intimidating when you come walk into a dealership and the only person you see is maybe 1 or 2 women that are working there. So flexibility in scheduling, also a zero tolerance for some of the nonsense that would go on in the dealerships. Inappropriate behaviors and conversations were not conducive to women being in the dealerships and making things uncomfortable. So making sure you're having a good working environment, a professional environment, and an environment that both male and female feel comfortable doing business in and working in. Right now, I've been able to add about 25% of our workforce in the one location as females.
Yeah. What do you think is driving the change? You said culturally, there's better accommodations made. Do you think it's automotive as an industry where I feel like the younger generation wants a little bit better work-life balance, which we support in our auto group. We won Glassdoor's best auto dealers to work for, work-life balance, which that's a tough needle to thread, right? So when you talk about it, whether you're a man, a woman, whoever you are, like enabling and empowering employees to be involved in places they need to be, kids, family, whatever. Do you feel like it's becoming more accepting and tolerant to leave work to go do a kid thing or whatever? Or is that still a challenge, Krystal?
What we say is this is a people business, right? This is also involving your employees and figuring out what your employees' why to come to work is. It might not be monetary. Why are they doing this? Are they taking care of an elderly parent? Do they have health concerns? Is it the children? Is it time with their church group, whatever that is? What is their why? Why do they get up in the morning? And if you cannot determine that, you're not going to be able to get the best output out of your staff. Yeah.
So you're the first female chair of GM's Commercial Dealer Advisory Board.
That's correct.
Anything you want to share with us about that in your path, you would say to other women or other people in your position, what it took credibility wise, what it took to achieve that position, and And what does it mean to you today to be there? And what are you able to do in terms of making changes in the industry in that role?
Sure, I appreciate that. In that position, president for the dealer advisory, that's an elected position. So I was elected by my peers.
Congratulations. By the
thank
way.
you very much. I appreciate that. But I also stand behind my word in it, whether it's male or female. I speak on behalf of dealer council, not just Advantage Auto Group. So when they're industry related, the problem I always find and the frustration I have with a lot of auto dealers is we can't make changes if you're not willing to address them. What positions do you need to get to make those changes? So on the board, I get to sit down with Duncan, who's the president for GM, or different presidents for their different franchises. What are you willing to do to talk about those changes to get them addressed? The factory isn't, they're not car dealers, and vice versa. We're not the factory, so we have to have some type of conversation. And a lot of people want to make complaints, but don't want to get involved to make the changes. And it is a sacrifice on your time, right, for business, is to be on dealer advisory, but it is important in case you want those changes to be had. And also, industry relations is good for your buy, sells, and in open points, because at the end of the day, the manufacturer has the right to execute, in a lot of states, their first right of refusal. So if they do not believe you are a qualified dealer that is going to handle that business in the way they want, they can execute that, whether I'm Warren Buffett or not. So industry relations is a part that I don't think there's a lot of conversation about that, but it is important.
So among your other accolades, you won the 2025 Ally Sees Her Award. What is that award, and what does that award mean to you personally? But also, I think to your team as well, right? There's a meaning to the team you lead.
Sure. Ally Sees Her is they're recognizing women that are forward thinking and in the automotive industry. And I'm not selfishly looking out for myself. I'm looking to see other young people that can grow within the business, whether it's male or female. And, I know I'm breaking barriers and walls, but I'm going to tell you, when I go into different automotive rooms, I don't care if I'm the only woman or not. I don't take no for an answer, and I'm going to go into what I need to get into and get my address. But I'm also, at the same time, have to take care of business. So I can't demand or ask of things if my stores are not doing well in CSI, your RSI, your retail sales index, and your fixed ops metrics. So I can complain all I want, but the first thing a manufacturer is going to say is, what are you doing to take care of your day-to-day business? You've got a lot of demands. So that's important to measure those things and make sure that you're on target, and if not, meeting with your rep to figure out how you can get either your allocation on parts, your allocation on vehicles, in order to meet those manufacturer requirements.
So you are all in with General Motors. That's the brand you have, right? There's no additional brands in your portfolio of stores, is there?
We have Acura, Honda, Toyota, and General Motors.
Okay, I apologize. We didn't have it all listed there. So
no problem.
Who do you see? And we always ask this question. It puts everybody in an uncomfortable position. Who's your favorite OEM? And then what's the biggest challenge if you went to go look at additional acquisitions, Krystal?
There's no favorite. I'll always have diplomacy. I'll tell you, General Motors brought us to the dance. That's who our first start was with, and we have 3 Chevy stores. It's within a 10-mile radius of each other. But all the manufacturers have their opportunities. The number one sought after franchise is still Toyota, and that's the flagship brand. But every manufacturer presents its own opportunities. But I've worked in corporate America, and I've worked in the auto industry, and I much prefer, my passion is in the car business.
Yeah, interesting. So talk to us a little bit about, you made this additional acquisition, Buick GMC Cadillac. They brought you to the dance, so that's why you're expanding into these. But what do you see as being the bright side of GM over the next 12, 24 months? How are they winning today in the market, and how will they win in the near term and long term?
What's interesting is the number one luxury brand in China is Buick.
That is true. I was fascinated by that. Why is that, Krystal? What is Buick? What does China know about Buick that Americans maybe don't fully appreciate?
You know what, though? Their technology, shocking, is as forward thinking and as innovative, if not even a little bit ahead of the scale there, which shocks me because they're very innovative in that country. But, you know, I look at some of the luxury brands from some of the other imports. General Motors is very innovative on their technology. The newest, you know, portion of that is their EV sector, right? Their EV, the technology is, I'm going to give you a perfect example. I'm driving a 2025 GMC Sierra EV. 470 miles on a full charge, 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds, and the whole dash is a computer. Under $110,000, I'm in. Yeah, they're extremely innovative, and there's not even, I don't think, I'm trying to think of even the Raptor. The Raptor can't even keep up with that type of the torque that it has in that vehicle. So they're very, very innovative when it comes to technology.
Very cool. All right. I completely lost track of time, Krystal, and our producer just prompted me. They're like, we are at time, but I'm going to make a decision, and I'm going to ask the producer to hang in here with me because I have just 2 more questions. We do not want to let you go before, because this has been such a great conversation.
Sure.
You've talked publicly about following in your father's footsteps. You said following in your father's footsteps could make you only the 3rd female African-American GM dealer in the United States. What barriers still remain to becoming a dealer as a female African-American, and which ones are myth versus material? Which ones are real versus fake?
Well, funny enough, while we're talking, my GM rep was texting me to say, congratulations, you're only the only female African-American Cadillac dealer in the whole U.S.
Wow. Okay.
There's 580 Cadillac dealers nationwide. So, you know, I know this is a huge milestone just for women, period, and doing that. But I came to the show. I got to perform. I don't want to be the first one that came in and out. So I have a heck of a job ahead of me.
And it's about winning. You've got to deliver. You've got to execute. And what message would you send to others looking? I think no matter who you are, no matter what place you're in, when I see someone that I can emulate, who can mentor me into a similar role, whether it's becoming a dealer, whether it's becoming a GM, I can follow that path. And there are those that are watching the show today in September of 2025 that see you and say, I love what you're doing. I want to emulate what you're doing. I want to copy your path. I want to be mentored by you. What advice would you give to someone looking to follow your path in and through automotive?
Never get too comfortable. I operate every day like it is my last day. And I would tell you all, working for my dad's probably been the best experience. We have our corporate board meetings and he makes it clear they can be replaced. And he's referring to myself and my brother. They can get a check, but they don't have to be in my business if they're not taking care of business. So we have our resumes ready at all times. I don't even have personal pictures in my office. I work out of a laptop. I operate every day like it is my last day at the dealership.
Wow.
If you don't get comfortable and operate like it's your last day, you will take care of business.
I love that. I love that. Well, Krystal Roberts, Executive Manager, Advantage Chevrolet of Hodgkins, soon to be Buick GMC Cadillac. We appreciate your example. We appreciate your message and for sharing with us today. And we need to do lunch at some time in the Chicagoland. I'm there often.
Sounds great.
We need to make that happen at some time, but we appreciate you being on the show. And thanks for sharing your perspectives, Krystal Roberts.
Thank you all. And thanks to all the other speakers. You all did a fantastic job.
Thank you. Oh, I tell you what, this is why I love automotive. I truly believe this. Automotive, unlike any other industry, it is one of the last great American enterprises. You can come in, as she said, regardless of your background, religion, it's not perfect. So don't write in and say, oh, well, here's an exception here, here's an exception there. There are exceptions and we still need to, but I love how the American dream, if you want to call it that, is alive and well in this industry still to this day. And just appreciate her message in sharing that with us, Krystals. So
for sure, getting outworked is a choice. So if you don't want to get outworked, no one is going to outwork you.
Yeah, I love it. And thanks to the producers for allowing us to go wrong. And thanks to you, Our Daily Dealer Live audience for tuning in today to listen to this show. We're back on Wednesday. Thank you for watching Daily Dealer Live, where we break down the biggest moves in the car business as they happen. Don't forget, everybody, we're live here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if this is your world, hit like, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you never, ever miss a beat. And we'll see you next episode. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.